Hi, my name is Will Clark. I'm the lead attorney and founder of the Injury Law Guides, and I'm a member of the San Antonio Trial Lawyers Association, known as SATLA, and I've been a member for a decade. This year, I'm proud to serve as the membership chair. Each month, I visit with a new member of SATLA to highlight the attorneys who make this organization great. Today, I'm joined by Omar Rivero of the Harper Law Firm. Omar, if you can start things off by telling us how long you've been with the Harper Law Firm, where you went to law school, and how long you've been a lawyer.
So I went to law school at South Texas College of Law, graduated in 1986, and got licensed in 1986. So I'm close to 40 years, which hard for me to believe at this point, but that's where we are. And I've been with Harper, with his firm, with Taylor's firm, since right about, say, mid-October. And before that, I was a personal injury lawyer over at senior lawyer over at Thomas J. Henry, and before that, I was a partner over at a firm in Corpus Christi called Chavez, Resendez, and Rivero, doing defense work.
There you go. How much time did you take off before you joined up at the Harper Law Firm?
So I retired from with Tom, and it's been probably at least three and a half years that I was off before Taylor and I hooked up. And after a lot of discussions with him, he convinced me. And I was going to say he twisted my arm, but it really didn't require any twisting. I was eager to do it.
Yeah. What made you want to get back in the game?
I've got a lot of friends after almost 40 years of practice. Got a lot of buddies, a lot of guys that still practice law. Some of them still at Thomas J. and at other places. And I was getting free lunches and meals because of the many times that they would, before I knew it, we were talking about cases and what do you think and what do you, friends, Jim Martin, who's over at Sorrell's Law Firm in Houston, said, you're an idiot. You need to, and you ought to go back into it. You still got a lot to offer. And then Taylor and I connected and I agreed. And it's been extremely rewarding. I've enjoyed every moment of it.
And what is your role over at the Harper Law Firm?
Initially it was just as a senior attorney, and I don't think he meant just because I'm the oldest guy here.
Yeah.
But it was a senior attorney, but then he said, Omar, I want you to be the managing attorney. And so I want to get my business card changed to managing attorney because I think it sounds less descriptive than senior attorney. So that's what I am. I'm the managing attorney. And so I review the cases that are coming into the firm, assign them to the attorneys, and then just mentor. It's like I like to tell the other attorneys here, you guys are Cubs, I want you to become Lions. So when I step down, you guys are the new Lions of the firm.
I love that. We're going to venture back. Okay, I want to ask you what brought you to the practice of law? What made you want to be a lawyer coming up on 40 years ago?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. It wasn't my intent. I graduated from A&M with a political science degree, and you said, oh, Omar, you clearly did political science because you wanted to be a lawyer. Not so. I just liked politics at that moment. And so I decided to go, I love finance, so I decided to become a stockbroker. And I became a stockbroker with a firm that's no longer in existence. And for 3 years I was doing that, and I said, you know what? I'm going to become a securities lawyer. And so the dean at South Texas College of Law at that time was a former Aggie, Dean Garland Walker. I had missed all my deadlines I walked into his office and said, Dean, I got my checkbook right here. You make an exception and let me into this class, and I will not let you down. And much to my shock, he agreed. So that's how I ended up in law school. And then I clerked with the Securities Exchange Commission one summer and decided, oh crap, I really don't enjoy this. What now? What? And so that's how I ended up working in commercial litigation for a year in Houston. Decided I wanted to be a PI lawyer. Went to a local PI lawyer there in Houston. He says, Omar, before I hire you, I need for you to do at least 10 years as a defense lawyer, so you'll learn the ins and outs. And I ended up in Corpus Christi as a defense lawyer. And I picked Corpus because I was windsurfer back then. And that's 10 years.
I was going to say, that's a pretty tough place to be a defense attorney.
Yeah,
So
and it wasn't just Corpus, Brownsville, Edinburgh, and every little town in between, and all the way west to Laredo is where we practiced. So it it was a learning experience, Will. In fact, I'll give you a little story about how it was back in those days. Doug Chavez, my mentor, great defense lawyer, still practicing in Corpus. He goes, Omar, I want you to go cover this doctor's deposition. I said, damn, Doug, I've never done a doctor's deposition. He goes, no, you're good. I said, all right, when do I need to go? What day is it? He goes, it's about 30 minutes. You got 30 minutes to get ready for it. I said, okay, that's fine. Where are the documents? I say, okay, Omar, when you get there, you just ask for the doctor's file.
yeah,
That was my first doctor's deposition. It did not go well, Will, but it
I
was
imagine.
trial by fire, man. And,
It's funny.
I said, Doug, I mean, are you sure I can handle this? And he goes, in a very sincere tone, he goes, I wouldn't be asking you to do it if I didn't think you could do it. Now I know that line was full of, was not exactly right, but he convinced me. And so that was the beginning, and ended up being a partner of his. And then Thomas J. Henry was an associate when I was an associate at that firm. And that's how I've known Tom for 38 years, 39 years. And so then Tom reached out to me and said, quit doing that and come over here. But as a senior lawyer, in fact, we started, I think I was attorney 1A or 1B. I like to call it 1A. We were the first, me and another guy were the first two senior lawyers he had.
There you go.
But, I got the plaintiff's bug really while I was still at Doug's firm. I had a church member that was involved in a serious collision, head-on collision. And so she said, Omar, I want you to handle the case. And that was my first plaintiff's case. And just to give you a little background, in that case, there were two Ford Pintos involved in a head-on collision, okay? I represented one of the people in the Ford Pinto, and there were two people in the other Ford Pinto that died in the collision. And my guy ended up with a broken neck and almost died. Back then, my investigator went out to the scene, looked at the vehicles, and saw a computer printout in the back of one of the Ford Pintos. And in the computer printout, he's got his camera, he's taking photographs of it. It was an inventory list for First Cash Pawn.
Okay.
It ended up that these folks were on their way to the new store that First Cash Pawn had just opened in Corpus Christi. And the company said, yeah, they were in the course and scope. I'm thinking, First Cash Pawn, Ted Dugash was our investigator. I said, Ted, how much can this, come on, it's a pawn shop. Well, little did I know that First Cash Pawn was traded on the New York Stock Exchange. So that was my first case, and I thought all cases were going to be like that going forward. Much to my chagrin, it was not, but that was a big first experience.
Let me ask you, what interested you about joining Satla, and what do you hope to get out of the organization?
I routinely am on Satla because of the resources, the attorneys that'll post things, and then other attorneys will respond to that post, and the information that you can gather from it, and a lot of good information and helpful information. And interestingly, I find attorneys that I knew that are still in Corpus Christi that are members of Satla, and they're getting, they have access to it. So I know it's beneficial, and I think it's a resource that most people, or more attorneys, ought to be, that are in doing the business that we're doing, ought to be members of. So kudos to you for being in charge of membership, and I hope you continue to push it, because I think it's a worthwhile endeavor.
There's nothing else like it really in the state of Texas, as far as I've seen. I mean, in most jurisdictions, if you have a competitor ask you, how are you doing? What are you working on? It's not a friendly question, right? They're trying to figure out your business,
Right.
But here in San Antonio, I mean, ever since I showed up, it's such a collegial environment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, really some of the best friends I have been made through Satla. So we're very, very happy to have you here. Very happy
to be a member of it, because I do think that it's a valuable resource.
I like to end every member of the month video with a story, and we all have one. It's the client or case that we'll never forget, that shapes who you are as a lawyer, reminded you why you chose your profession in the first place. You already gave us the first example, but I'm sure you have a second one to give me? I assume
Well,
you're the kind of guy you've got a couple in the chamber ready to go.
oh, I've got plenty of cases that have convinced me that what I'm doing is the right thing. And at that time, I was already a partner with Doug, and I was defending a commercial incident down in Edinburgh. It ended up defending it and doing really well. But what struck me, and it stuck with me and convinced me that I'm on the wrong side of the aisle, I felt empathy for the plaintiffs in that case. And I realized that I had a part. I was a primary part in them not getting what I really should have been given to them in that case. And it was basically because really was poor plaintiff's assistance in that case. And so I felt it. I felt bad about it. And that stuck with me to such an extent that I knew right then and there I was sitting on the wrong side of the aisle. That was it, really. And once I made that decision, I haven't looked back. There's no question I value what I learned as a defense lawyer. But I think at some point at least I did, I realized, no, I'm fighting for the wrong side. And that case was it for me.
I love that. So I'd like to say thank you, Omar Rivero, for sharing your story and joining us today. And if you're an attorney out there interested in learning more about SATLA and you're considering membership, please send me an email. My email is will@theinjurylawguides.com. I'd be happy to speak to you about the benefits of SATLA, share my personal experience, and more. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, Will. Thank you.
Thank you.